Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Bonus Points podcast. I'm Joe Garrett, as always being joined by Ollie Guy.
Hello.
And we have another guy joining us as well. We have Ollie's brother, Ben Guy, as special guest on the podcast. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I guess I'll let you intro, Ben, seeing as it's your brother, Ollie.
Well, every day I've been alive, he's been there. I've never been without him. Shared a room.
Never been without him.
Never been without him. Shared a room for 16 years. What else? Every video game I've had has probably come through Ben up until I was 16, and then I was on my own. Yeah, great guy. Here he is. Oh, also I've got 4 brothers, but he's my only real brother. The rest of them are halves and steps. So this guy's pure blood.
They're all blood brothers. You just don't like any of the other ones.
I'm sure they'll be on at some point, maybe.
Don't say that. We don't know.
Okay. Do they have all really bad taste of games? Is that the thing? So you
yeah, we do Counter-Strike twice if they're all on. So
true. Yeah, true that. True.
So yeah, thanks so much for coming on. And the game you have chosen for us all to play was one of the most beloved games just all times forever, I guess, in our lives at least, basically. Super Metroid, aka Metroid 3. Like, what was so it's called Super Metroid, right? But then the title says Metroid 3, because I guess it's just the third one.
Yeah, and that's common across all of them, I think. So Metroid 1 and Metroid 2 are just called that, and everything from Super Metroid is got a different title on the box, I guess, but you have a game title of Metroid 4 is Metroid Fusion, and then Metroid Dread is Metroid 5, which is obviously a big time span. I think we're talking, 16 years between Metroid 4 and 5, something like that. So yeah, I guess like you've got like the Prime series and everything like that, but they, I guess, treated separately. Platformers get their own numbers, you know. But yeah,
I've got the official Wikipedia entry for Super Metroid to read out. For people that might not know this game or this series, it goes as follows. Super Metroid is an action-adventure game developed by Nintendo and Intelligent Systems, published for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1994. It is the third installment in the Metroid series, following the events of the Game Boy game Metroid 2 Return of Samus. Players control bounty hunter Samus Aran, who travels to the planet Zebes to retrieve an infant Metroid creature stolen by the space pirate leader Ridley.
Is it Zebes, I think?
Zebes? I don't know what it is.
I think Zebes is the collective. I think I've heard Zebes said before. Not that I'm having a go. I only think I know that from the
I've got a case of the Zebes.
The heebie-zeebies. So I'm assuming, is this like a game from your childhood? I'm assuming, Ben, is that right?
No, it's not. It's not. No. So I was thinking about this. So me and Ollie, we had a SNES, but we definitely didn't have Super Metroid. We didn't have A Link to the Past either. So we kind of missed out on two tentpole games, you know, of that system. It might have been because, to be honest, I don't even remember being sort of conscious of it at the time. I was never like, I really want to play this Metroid game. I think the first time I really was kind of aware of Metroid as a series was probably when Metroid Prime came out on the GameCube, because I never played it on, obviously, the original, which I will talk about later, and I never played the Game Boy game either, so it just wasn't on my radar, which is kind of it's a bit odd. But I guess at the time you got to think, right, when did this game come out? 94 maybe? I think you already said 94. Very different landscape, no internet. You know, you just had video game magazines, and I was 6 years old. So, and Ollie was 4. So yeah, that's probably why we missed out on it. So yeah, but it's a game.
So when did you play it then? Like when was your first exposure to it?
I reckon it was about maybe 12 years ago. So it is, you know, this isn't like I only played it 2 months ago. Like, this is a game I've played a few times.
So what did you play it on?
Firstly, I probably played it on an emulator on a laptop. I know, oh, God, Nintendo are actually going to come.
We'll bleep. Don't worry, we'll bleep that. We'll bleep
that. Yeah. But then I think when I properly played it, I think it might have been on the Wii U when I first played a proper version of it and completed it on the Wii U. Was my first sort of go. Pretty sure.
I also played it for the first time on the Wii U, and I think that's because they sold it for 79p, didn't they? So it was They used to do, because obviously no one bought the Wii U, they kind of had that early adopter ambassador thing, and they were selling all of their SNES games for 80p. They change it every week, and I bought loads, and this was one of the ones that I bought then.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking of maybe it's in the Wikipedia article, but so the Game Boy Advance had obviously a Super Mario 3 remake, sort of, not really. And a link, I think it had a Link to the Past as well. Did it on Game Boy Advance? No. Okay.
Yeah,
so maybe it was Super Mario 3.
There is a Link to Past on Game Boy Advanced.
Is there? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
100%. I've played it.
I'm pretty sure. So obviously those two.
I could go get it. It was just outside my door. 100%.
So those two.
You don't need to look it up, Ollie. Stop looking it up. 100%. It's there.
I do remember that.
It is there. It's there.
It's there.
I know it's
there. And basically, and obviously, I don't think Super Metroid was part of that. Metroid Fusion was obviously on Game Boy Advance, but the only time that I could legally play it, I guess, was on the Wii U. So there we go. That's when I first played it.
I wonder if I guess it just probably wasn't popular enough. I know in Japan it wasn't very big at all, and then even in the West, compared to other Zelda franchises, it's never been I feel like it's culturally bigger than it ever actually has been in terms of players and sales. It's I feel like it's almost the most popular cult classic there's ever been.
Yeah, definitely. So but it definitely was a game that I was this feels great to play, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah.
So I think maybe the popularization of Metroidvanias has done a lot to make this game a resurgence of this game, isn't it? So this game being responsible for half of the Metroidvania word. Does anyone want to guess which half?
No.
The other half being Castlevania. Symphony of the Night is the one that kind of popularized that as well, which is also a great game.
Do you feel like it's I feel like Castlevania is kind of cheap. I feel like it should just be Metroid-like, and Castlevania is a Metroid-like because Metroid came out so much sooner. Why is it piggybacking off Metroidvania?
Yeah,
it just was Metroid, right?
I did play Symphony of the Night fairly recently. I actually started up after I completed Super Metroid, and I just can't get into it. It just doesn't grab me. I know Ollie's a fan, but
I'm a big fan.
Yeah. I was watching his face.
You should probably do it. Maybe do it on the pod. That'd be good. But it's just Super Metroid has always been a much stronger sort of pull for me to play. Yeah.
Okay. And so you hadn't finished it, Ollie, when you played it back in the day, right? This was your first time seeing credits?
Yeah. So when I played it on the Wii U, I got to the part where you leave the destroyed ship area. Mm-hmm. Which I kind of feel like is the second time they fling you into absolute nothingness. Where okay, it's just up to you to find the next area. I got that far on the Wii U version, and I never picked it up again. I was no idea where to go. But I did finish it this time, so that's good.
And I guess I'll just say this was my first time ever playing any Metroid. So
nice.
I played for it on the Switch. I'm assuming that's where we all played it. I guess we've kind of jumped in quite deep already, but we haven't really explained what a Metroidvania is. Obviously, the last episode we did on the podcast was Hollow Knight, and it's quite common anyway. So I guess rather than the genre in particular, and let's looking at just Super Metroid, how would you describe the flow of gameplay, Ben?
So it's basically you're kind of in. Well, I hesitate to use the word sandbox because that's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but you are in an area and you can go back and forth. You can go to this room and you'll go there and you'll be okay, I can't seem to do anything in here. I need to find somewhere else to go. And you pick up abilities as you go around. And then you can go, right, okay, now I can go back here and then make some progression down this route. So you're looking at a traditional platformer is very much you go left to right. This is more, you can go left, right, up, down. You've got like the map as well, which is obviously very key. And it's built around the abilities that you pick up during the game, and using them to progress to your next sort of area. I can't even use the word objective because we don't even really have that in this game, you know. So yeah,
I think it's really clever, and I'm hoping it's intentional. The fact that at the beginning of the game you have to go left, because like that was so built in, like go right, go right. I feel like the fact that at the beginning the right way is blocked and you have to go left is sort of a way to tell players like, no, this ain't your Mario Bros. This is something different. Like this isn't like other games, especially games at the time.
Yeah, of course, and also like, you know, the fact that Nintendo is synonymous with platformers like that. You know, it's a very different Nintendo game. I think it still is a bit of a like oddity in the Nintendo sort of canon for other reasons. But yeah, it's I think it's probably harder for younger audiences to get into it because it's just more complex than Mario, Kirby, Yoshi's Island, whatever. But I think it's a lot more engaging for that. For like, you know, when you're teenagers, young adults, that sort of audience sort of resonate with it, I think.
Okay, so then Ollie, as a young adult, make the most of that term while you can. Like, how did you find it in terms of like difficulty and like, not as even like difficulty in terms of like bosses or anything, but in terms of like navigating the world, like how often were you looking up guides and how often did the game give you enough to get through it all?
So luckily, because I played it before, there was a few things I knew and remembered that I know triple lot players up, which is the sprinting across that bridge, which is what I texted you about.
You messaged me about that.
Yeah. And the other thing I knew about already was blowing up the glass tube, which is another one that a lot of people don't know about.
I wanted to talk about that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will get there.
I was starting, you know, when I was messaging you saying I was in, what's the place called? I got it written down here. Yeah, in Meridia. And I was like, I was lost in Meridia. And I said, I've worked it out. It was the tube. That was the thing I was stuck with.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's not that hard to navigate because it's not that, like by today's standards, it's not a huge game. It's quite small. I mean, probably at the time it was unbelievably huge, but like nowadays it's not that hard to navigate. I found the combat probably the most tricky thing compared to navigation. Although I don't think the map also is not that good because it doesn't update. That's the other thing that's quite tricky about it is it does rely on you remembering. Like, so for example, if you go through a door, you don't get a door on the map. It just stays like a solid wall. Or like if you pick up a secret, the dot stays there. So it's like, you know there's something there, but you've already got it. Like stuff like that was a bit tricky. The no doors thing,
when it would just be two boxes next to each other and you're like, well, is there a door connecting them? It's not great.
Joe, and this, I checked this today, this is the first Metroid game that had a map. So the other two don't even have maps. So imagine that.
Yeah, I've actually
like
played
trying to navigate that.
I've actually played Metroid 2 and it was too difficult. But I had it when I was a kid because it was on Game Boy.
Right.
Yes, that's the Game Boy one.
Yeah, I think I played it and then probably traded it in or took it back quite quickly.
Wasn't that remade like relatively recently on like 3DS?
Yeah, on the DS or 3DS, yeah.
Yeah, they also did like an indie team made a remake that got cease and desisted pretty quick. But I did play it. It was quite cool. But yeah.
Yeah, I think as well, like, I don't know if you want to do it like beat by beat, but like the intro to the game, it's quite important, I'd say, and quite interesting as well. So, and again, Metroid 1 doesn't have this. Metroid 1, literally, you get a very brief bit of text, which barely makes sense. I think it was translated badly. And then you just get dropped into the game and off you go. See, this has got pretty cinematic introduction. So kind of one of the other reasons I wanted to talk about this game is the kind of gap in capability of the NES v the SNES and how much graphical sort of progress was made between those two systems that I think we kind of lose sight of now.
Yeah.
So things like, Is it Samus or Samus? I don't actually know how to. Let's go
I
with
say
Samus.
Samus. I mean, but I also said
Samus.
Zebes, so
True. The ship going across and flying into the camera. That's quite
the scaling sprites is very
that's quite a
SNES.
Cinematic sort of, especially for the time and for what Nintendo were doing. It's very different and it stands out. I think it works.
Yeah,
well.
I think I hadn't noticed the jump. Well, obviously I'd known the jump, but the difference between Metroid 1 and Super Metroid is so huge compared to the difference between Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World. Like, they don't look that different. They don't play that different. But those two is a much bigger jump.
I think Mario 3 is like a bit of a, absolute miracle that it is on the NES.
True.
The size of it and the complexity of it. So I think the other thing as well is with Super Metroid is like, so Samus as a character. So like I was trying to think as well, because she kind of not talks, but the text at the start is from her point of view. And I was like, is there any other Nintendo character that has an eye? That as it talks about themselves. I was like, I can't think of any. Maybe like Fox from Star Fox. I think maybe he does. But I was like, no, even Link. Link has nothing, So Samus having like a thought is like, wow, that's pretty like, pretty
that's true. That's really true. But also, Samus is still so mysterious, even though they have that.
Yeah, the game is generally, isn't it? There's no. So you compare it to Metroid Fusion, which is built obviously for a handheld. That game is constantly telling you what's going on via the navigation runes. This one is like, okay, you get the intro, but there's no sort of like, you need to, I don't think it ever says to you, apart from in that intro, what you're trying to do on this planet. It's just
that Ridley. So just to talk through the intro, I haven't really spoke about it like specifically. So it does like an intro, I guess, cinematic where it has literal voiceover and it's kind of aged a little bit. That bit's fine. It's literally like a recap for the previous games, which I appreciated, not having played them. But then it goes into the gameplay, and then it does, kind of environmental storytelling, which is like kind of crazy for a game of that era, where you're kind of going through, there's like an alarm going off, and that they were doing these scientific experiments on this little Metroid lava thing. And then you show up there and you're trying to see what's gone wrong. And then Ridley kind of appears from like the background. And if you remember, I think like their eye appears first, and they show up and fly off with the Metroid. And then for some reason there's a timer because the place is going to blow up. I'm not sure that they ever explain why, but it is. So you got to rush out. And then it's the ship flying off to Zebi or whatever Ollie wants to call the planet, to Zebes. And so it has the intro cinematic, which is just like the backstory. But then all of the story for the setup of the game, you're basically either in control of it or it's the normal kind of gameplay screen. And it was for how simple the story is, it was enough. Like, I understood what was going on. I understood, okay, I'm chasing after this Metroid and this this I kind of knew who Ridley was just because I guess from Smash Bros and stuff, like they were kind of a famous character, and that was kind of enough for me. But they didn't have to ever take away control, and it wasn't reading lines of text, which is what games of that era, if they were trying to do a story, that's what it would have been.
And that environmental storytelling is quite interesting as well. Am I right in saying, that's a vague, I can't remember if there's like, I think there's dead bodies in the prologue.
Yeah, it's like
there is on the title screen. The title screen's got two dead bodies on it.
And like the screen, like the screen tilting as you're escaping, which is again like a really cool sort of like effect, which again, you don't really like, you kind of lose sight of the fact that was quite, exciting at the time to see something
we
like
spoke
that,
about that in Yoshi's Island. They use that a lot, that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like that was them pushing it as far as they could go, like the world warping and stuff. But it is used quite sparingly here, but it makes a really good effect when it does do those moments.
I think as well, like the sprite, any of the sprites really, they kind of look like Mega Drive sprites, I've always thought.
Because they're so massive.
Quite tall. So like they look like, again, you compare it to other Nintendo games, where you got little squat characters like Mario, Kirby, Yoshi. And these are like, they look like humans, you know. So you've got your obviously Samus, and then you've also got the space pirates that are like big enemies as well. And that again is quite like stands out quite a lot. So
yeah, and then the speed that you move as well is I guess it feels a little bit more Sega. Like you can run fast, you can jump like crazy high when you get the super jump, and obviously, so I was playing on the Switch. And I got a bunch of slowdown. Has anyone played on original hardware? Does anyone remember or know how well this game would have run back in the day?
I imagine the emulator emulates what the SNES would do. I think it basically does. It slows down where the SNES would slow down.
And it's not awful, but it is noticeable, during some of the crazier moments.
Yeah, I that speed, the way that she controls is so great, and the animation, so it's going back to that point of like, it feels really great to play, you know. She's like really easy she's easy to control, but also like she is very athletic and like this, you know, very fast. Yeah, it's just like really fun to just like play as her and move around the environment, which is obviously really important as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. I found her very difficult to control. I was watching
Ollie.
She's too big.
I'll let you go, Ollie. Like, how did you find just kind of basic controls?
She's way too big. Like, jumping, when you jump and she's spinning, like, it's insane. Yeah. Like, it's really difficult to go from a normal jump where she kind of squats in the air, to a spinning jump. And you don't always know which one's going to come out, but there's two instances where you need the spinning jump, and it's like, well, I can't even get it to come out because I don't know what I'm doing differently to make it come out when it does.
That was fiddly, yeah.
Yeah, and also when she crouches, she's not that small. So like if you're in a fight and you crouch down, you literally lose like hardly any height. You're still just getting shot in the head. And she's so fast that like I'd have to like, which I mean, not necessarily a bad thing, but I'd have to really plan what I was going to do. So there's a bit where you have to jump across, like run and jump across almost the whole stage. And that was like, I had to really think about that. Whereas like if it was like Sonic, it would kind of just control itself and just be like, oh, you know, you're up there, which, you know, not necessarily bad, but it does mean that like it was quite fiddly to control. I'd say probably it really shows during the combat, the controls being like not that great by today's standards. Moving around slowly is fine, like moving from room to room, shooting doors and stuff is fine. But when it's like you have to do anything that's slightly higher octane, it suddenly is like, oh my god, I'm glad I have 10 E-tanks because my health would be draining right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is the way her energy, the way that her life system is handled really helps. It's not like you get hit and you lose a heart or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's quite forgiving. If you fall in a pit of spikes, you can get out.
Yeah,
it still doesn't feel good though. It's like, okay, like it's not, hasn't instant killed me, but I still often would feel like, oh, I fell in because of the controls. Like Ollie was saying, so sometimes you do a normal jump, which gives you really good air control, and then sometimes you do the spin jump where you have like hardly any air control. But then there's things like the wall jump, which is like ridiculously fiddly in terms of like you got to jump, but then you got to push away while still on the wall and jump, and then like there's the kind of the super jump where you kind of, I don't know if it's called that, but where you kind of keep spin jumping, and it's kind of a really specific timing.
I have no idea how to do that.
You feel like the developers, like they did it and it works and they know how it's done, but like they never thought about, oh, it's like there's nothing intuitive for like the player to work that out. And even like the bit where you get like stuck in quicksand, I'm like, oh, what's the way to get out of it? Sometimes spinning jump helps. It's like this.
That's true.
And there was so many moments like that, and it didn't kill the experience for me or anything, but I was like, I like this format. I like Metroidvanias, and I like the setting and the music and stuff. That's all cool. I don't enjoy controlling Samus, and I think the fact that we did do this back to back with Hollow Knight, I think probably made it like extra painful, where that is like kind of like so fine tuned the movement controls in that game.
I've kind of got the hang of wall jumps, and I do quite like that it's something that you kind of have to learn. So that when you do play through it again, because obviously I've played it 1.5 times, I was like, oh yeah, I can wall jump, so I know how I can get up to these places early because I have the muscle memory.
Yeah, I mean, I could do it. Like, I couldn't do it. It didn't feel good at like the learning point for like learning like how to do it. And like, because sometimes I do it, sometimes I didn't, and I didn't know, oh, what did I do right this time compared to wrong that time? And there's nothing that like is obvious for why it should work or shouldn't.
I mean, well, that's quite a famous part of the game, isn't it? Is the showing rather than telling some of the tutorials.
Little animals.
Little animals, yeah. So they didn't really. They taught me that I could do something. I could wall jump, but how you actually do it, I had to Google the knack. Basically, for people that don't know, you have to be in your somersault, and you have to basically turn away from the wall and then jump.
Yeah,
and then you can go back and forth, but it is tricky, to do that. And I'd be curious to see the instruction manual for this game, because another bit that I got stuck on, which we touched on earlier, is the collapsing floor. I was just like, I've completed this game before, by the way, and I got to this bit again, and I was like, I just don't know how to get past this. I was like, I can't remember. I was like, and I was going back and being like, what have I got to do? And you just hold sprint, which is not shown to you.
The game it had an edition that came with a guide, like the full guide. So I think it was like, okay, you're either reading Nintendo Power or you're reading this guide, because it is tricky. I don't know if anyone back in the day could do it without a guide. I don't know how you could even.
Well, I mean, if the dash button being there would, if I knew there was a dash button, I would have worked it out. But it's just it's just, I didn't even know it was a function, because the version we were playing didn't have. There's no instructions. So.
Well, I looked at the controls, because I changed what jump was to make it like what would be A on the Xbox. Can't remember what it is on Switch. Like I switched the controls, and so I saw that there was a dash button.
Okay, yeah.
But then I pressed it at the beginning. I was like, I don't have a dash yet. I was like, that I'm obviously going to get like a dash ability later on. But the button's not used, so that's why I struggled with that. If it was sprint, I might have tried it.
There's also that other ability, isn't there? Which I was watching a video today about Super Metroid, and I saw it, and I didn't have it in the game. Apparently, you have it from the start, but if you dash for long enough, you can jump straight upwards, like really high.
I don't think you get it from the start. I think you have to have that super dash to do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. But I didn't.
It's another case where you're taught by the animals. And that was actually one of the bits I liked, because it puts you in a pit, and then you see an animal run, but it doesn't tell you the controls. But, the only way to carry on is you got to get out the pit. So you just have to work it out. And that one was actually fine. And that was actually one of my highlight moments, was learning that crazy move.
I didn't see the animals either time or at the end. I know they appear 3 times. I didn't see any of them.
Oh, any of them?
No, I don't know how it happened.
I saw 2.
Yeah,
I didn't see all of them.
I saw wall jump and then that boosty one. What's the third one, Ben? Do you know?
Don't know.
There's one near the end, isn't there? Like on your way out, you can do something to rescue them.
You can rescue
I rescued
animals.
them. Yeah, I rescued them.
I didn't see them.
I didn't see
It's funny,
them
the super jump ability, the pushing down and jumping. I think I was like, I stumbled across that via Google, and I thought it was called a spine shank, because I read it wrong. It's called Shine Spark. So I was like, the spine shank move. And I was like Googling how to spine shank. And I was like,
that's my wrestling finisher.
Yeah. I was like, that's a weird name for why is it called spine shank?
I don't think.
Then why is it called Shine Spark? I don't know.
I don't think I even got that. I don't think I even got that move. What do you do?
No, it's so that is the super dash, push down, and then you you shine, and then you can jump up. Which you do.
Ollie, don't you know? It's when Samus goes to Zebby to do the spine chunk. It's like we're talking about like an alternate. We're like the 2 dimensions of like Super Metroid. We're in like the dark version where everything's slightly different. You're getting it all wrong.
Yeah, I was like, am I playing a Chinese copy or something? What's going on here? A bootleg version of it, Hyper Metroid. But yeah, again, and that was those dash moves, I was like, these are cool. Like, I love this. Like, smashing through the walls that part. And the long jump you do, I think, in a couple of rooms. It's like, this feels like great to do this,
Especially if you like double back to get to like secrets. I don't know if you did that. If you like long jump and then hold like to the right or left and kind of find secrets that way. I was happy when I found that.
Yeah, it's a very satisfying like feeling, and it's like whenever I've got like any sort of like clearance, I'm like, right, I'm dashing. It just feels good to do.
What was your guys' favourite ability? Because we haven't even mentioned mine. But I'm starting to think maybe my choice was really boring, which is why we haven't brought it up.
I'd probably say, I mean, the dash, really cool. But I kind of like the morph ball. Like the morph ball is cool, you know. Like
I like
it was
the morph
like
ball when you could jump. When you couldn't jump, it felt a little bit awkward sometimes. As soon as I got the jump, I just kind of jump around. Sometimes it's a ball because it was fun.
The morph ball in. So have you not played Metroid Prime either, Joe?
No, this is my first Metroid. Yeah.
It's a revelation in Metroid Prime. It's incredible, like satisfying to use the morph ball. But yeah, like I think that's just like it's a neat feature in this one. I'm trying to remember. It's got a grappling hook.
Yeah, that's not so good. That's really hard to use.
Bit fiddly. What else is there? Remind me.
My favourite one, which we haven't mentioned, just maybe because it's boring, is I really like the X-ray scope. I loved the X-ray scope, the sound of it, and like being able to see in the walls. I was like, oh my god, I'm like Superman. Like I finally know where everything is in every room now. I just go in and be like X-ray scoping, doing the 360 almost. That was easily my favourite one. I was like, I could play a whole game of that, of X-ray scoping caves.
The only thing I didn't like about that is the fact that you use it in every room. And it's like, now I feel like I have to like do a little 360 of every room. And it was like, there's no like clear application, you know, and it didn't really, I mean, it does open areas up, I'm pretty sure, and obviously it reveals secrets, but it's just not as visceral as the other abilities where it's like, I can really use this, you know. That's kind of why like the grappling hook doesn't really, it's just too fiddly. It doesn't feel like impactful enough, you know.
Yeah, that was an awkward one. The X-ray, just before you move on from the X-ray. Oh, sorry, you carry on.
No, I was going to say, the X-ray scope, the other thing about it is I think graphically, it seems to be quite impressive. Like the fact that the room goes dark and you can see out of the light, and the things you scan over, you can like half scan, so you can have half of it as the missile tank or whatever, and the top half is still stone. And stuff like that. I was like, I wonder how they're actually doing this. Like, so I also quite liked it for that very nerdy reason.
I do wish it was a little quicker, like you press it and it will do like scan of the room, or like even if it goes out from a circle, like the fact that you like stop still and then you're there, like sometimes because it's there would be secrets. I say secret, you know, this block you can just blow up, but there's no tell, no crack, nothing to signify. It means that like once you get that X-ray, you're like, well, I might as well just scan everywhere because there's a good chance on any screen it will be there, and that can, like, as cool as it is, it can sometimes hurt the pacing, I think, if you are trying to get like a decent amount of secrets.
I was going to say about the pacing and how is it a true Metroidvania? Let's throw that out there.
Well, it must be, right? Because it's the first one.
Yeah.
Surely all the ones that come after it aren't.
Yeah, it's the only one.
What I mean is, do you really have full control over where and what you can do? Because it funnels you, is what I'm trying to say. So the game funnels you to where it kind of wants you to go next. So there'll be instances where like you try and go back, but the door's destroyed. And it's like, okay, well, why is that door destroyed? Because it's just trying to get you to move to the next area, you know?
Yeah, or it locks a one-way door behind you.
Yeah, that was another way it uses. So it's like, it's almost like, is the game, because like you touched on earlier already, the game is quite small. And there were some instances that I had to Google, but I feel like it was actually quite simple to find my way forward. And Metroid Dread is an interesting kind of version of that, because that is like a really heavy-handedly funnels you. Like it's almost linear. This isn't as strong as that, but I did notice it like more strongly than say like Hollow Knight, which obviously is very big and very freeform. But this one, I don't know. I'd be interested to see if you guys feel the same. That I did feel like a funneling towards where the game wanted me to go.
I think that it's not such a bad thing, though. That's quite a good thing to have at least a rough idea of knowing where it is you need to go. and being pushed in the right. I mean, every time a door shut behind you or was blown up or something, it was like, it's now or never. You need to figure out what to do, and then when you figure out what to do, you can then take that action forward with you and be like, it's like, for example, the dashing bridge. I think that's a one-way door that's like, unless you know how to dash, you're not getting out of this room.
Is, yeah.
Like, I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's just a bit, I mean, limitations of the console as well. They kind of want to push you one way so that, because you can't have as many options, I guess.
I feel like it was like, it almost feels like it's setting up to be more open than it is, because like once you get to Zebes, the main thing is you find a room and you kind of see that there's like 4 statues of like 4 bosses that you need to kill, and you kill them all and then return back. And so it kind of feels like it's doing a thing where it's like, okay, I can go off and kill the 4 bosses and come back, but you have to kill the bosses in a certain order. And I feel like once it got to that point, there could be like a main progression in terms of like, okay, you might not be able to reach this area until you get the grapple hook or something, but like it would have been nice if you had more freedom to like do that in a certain order, because you don't know which order you have to kill the bosses in, so there's not an obvious way that you got to go. And I think something I've noticed from me and Ollie is I tend to like a more open game, and Ollie likes a more focused, I want to know what my challenge is and where I need to go. But I felt like the reason that I didn't feel like it felt too linear is because there's so many secrets. And even though like, okay, like I don't have to return back to this area for a story reason, now I've got the X-ray vision and the grappling hook and the super bomb and stuff. Like it's worth me going back there because I'll get a bunch of energy tanks and stuff as well. So it kind of felt fine for that reason. And then you'll get to one of the stations where you fill in the map and you're like, oh, look at all these places I've not been to. So it gives you good reasons to return to them. And that felt satisfying, even though I wasn't progressing the actual main story.
Yeah. And when you do get lost, like, or you're not sure where to go, I feel like it's like very severe. It's like you don't even have a hint of a clue of where it is you're meant to be going at all. Like the other thing is it's not very good at communicating. Like, for example, the gravity suit stops lava from being able to hurt you, which, like, is not something I thought of when I got the gravity suit. I wasn't like, I'm going to go jump in that pool of lava that's hurting me earlier on.
And I was going to say that. I was like, why is the gravity suit protecting me from lava?
I think it's meant to be, like, weighted. It's like a weighted suit. I think it's meant to be, like, so you can run on the bottom of water.
Yeah, so it's it means you can jump in water. That's one of the things it does.
And it teaches you that straight away, because after you get it dunks you into water basically to let you know that, but it doesn't give any hints that I could see about lava. And
also the fact that it hides things behind blocks being shot, like just random blocks being shot. You don't always necessarily think to shoot them. So like there's one part where you need a smart bomb or super bomb, and there's like a silver tunnel and it has like 4 smart bomb blocks at the bottom, and that's like where you have to go. And unless you shoot those blocks because you happen to be shooting down there, you wouldn't find those smart bomb things. And it's like that took me a really long time to find those. Like even using a guide, I was like, I don't even know where these are, like what I'm meant to be doing. And I kind of feel like go on, sorry Ollie. No, go on.
I was going to say, I think like on that point, the worst one of those moments is there's like a bit near the end where you just walk through a wall, and it's the only time you do that. It's like you don't even blow it up, you just yeah, it's like the top left. Like there'll be footage for it for the video version. And there's nothing to signify why you could walk through that wall, but that wall you can just walk through. And that I had to get a guide for. And it's never good when you look up a guide and you're like, oh, really? Like I want to look up a guide and, I feel like an idiot. Not, I feel like the game has let me down in some way, but that's one of the moments that really did.
Does the X-ray scope show that?
Nope.
You can walk through that wall. It doesn't either, yeah. Because I got stuck on the same point, yeah. I think as well, like what would be nice or better is if you had more instances where you're going through a room but at a different level, so you can see, oh, there's an energy capsule there, but how do I get to it? I think that works quite well. But there's a lot of rooms. The vast majority of the rooms are you just kind of stumble on them. You can't see them from any other angle or work out that there's a room there from the map.
Yeah. That's probably a limitation of the console more than anything as well, isn't it? Like, because you kind of run through the areas. So like being able to not go through the dark screen to show another area might be like something they wanted to do, but they couldn't.
And it's a grid based. So the map is a grid, you know. It's not like Hollow Knight again, which you guys talked about last week, because it's all hand drawn and very, unusual shapes, and this is literally just squares. So it's difficult to do that.
And it loads in a new area through the doorway, so they can't probably show you a bit of an area that's not loaded in, obviously. So that might make it a bit harder.
Can we quickly talk about how unbelievably good the sound effects and music is?
Yeah,
the music of this game. I feel like this is up there in the best music we've had on the show. Like that Brinstar song, like the jungle one. Oh my god, it actually sounds, the music really reminds me of, because we're all playing Tears of the Kingdom, when you finish a shrine in Tears of the Kingdom and it has that like weird choir singing, the music all sounds like that, and it's like just so cool and so unique. And also all the sound effects are so good. Like when you pick up an item and you get that like do 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 do, like even that is like just so satisfying. Even if it's just like, I got 5 more missiles, it's still like, I'm so good. Like the music playing.
All those motifs, they were from the NES version, so they're all like, and they're carried through all the Metroid games. They're a bit like the Zelda motifs, carrying through like that. And so actually another kind of point of going back to this, going back to the prologue and the intro, is like how minimalist the soundtrack is. Like there's barely anything. I think the prologue is silent when you're going into the ship for the first time, as in the where you first
it's just
see
an
Ridley.
alarm, but no music.
Or maybe it's actually, maybe I'm thinking when you first go to Brinstar, and it's like it's just pretty silent apart from a few like beeps and boops, for lack of a better word. But again, you got to think, like, you go back to that time when those games came out. Games wanted to make noise and make you look at them. You look at the arcade, like obviously arcade games, like they are designed to draw your attention, and consoles at the time were big on emulating arcade experiences. So it was like all about making noise and flashing lights at you, whereas this is like very subdued and very like ambient almost,
it carries
it's a great
today.
soundtrack.
It carries today as well, how ambient and the atmospheric, like the atmosphere and the vibes are like, it's obviously inspired by Alien as well, like the fact that it's called Metroid. It's like almost like being called Alien, like and but like the you pay so much more attention to what's happening, especially if we're talking about the intro again at the beginning, like because there's so little to go on. So it's like like you would notice that it starts raining or stops raining, like you're paying that much attention. We're like, oh, hang on a minute, like no, there's music in this room and there wasn't last time. It was just great soundtrack.
Shall we talk about someone like, seeing as I feel like we got the negative section out of the way, now we're back on the cool stuff. We haven't spoken about like the bosses or just kind of like individual moments that people really enjoyed. So I guess, Ollie, do you want to go first? Was there like either just a cool story moment or a particular boss or anything that kind of stood out to you?
Seeing that mental blue door that was like a monster's face was like,
then you got to jump up to it.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is that? And like I remembered that through like all the rest of the game. I was like, I've got to get a double jump or something.
Well, it works for game design as well, because it's like, I knew I couldn't jump to it. Like I will remember that room to go back to it because it is so crazy.
And all the like environmental design, like the caves are fine and the robot stuff's fine, whatever. Like it's cool, but like the weird like Polynesian like I don't know what they call, like tiki heads and stuff like that. Like that stuff really stuck out to me as being like, this is crazy design. Like, who made all this?
The last area is that?
A bit, but also it kind of goes throughout the game. Like you got to think someone made that alien head, like, and all these different things. Like that's what stuck out to me. That I was like, as I was playing through it, I was like, this is such a crazy environment that exists, and absolutely not what I was expecting at all when you first land. And obviously, you run through the countryside or whatever it is, and then through the like machinery bit, like along the surface of the planet, and then like the machinery bit, and then it's like, all of a sudden we're dealing in like totem poles and stuff like that. And it's like, this is mad. But that was my definitely my highlight, was seeing all that environmental stuff.
Yeah, what about you, Ben?
Probably the wrecked ship when you first go on to it and all the power's out. So save room, the save room doesn't work because there's no power.
Oh yeah.
So you're like, okay, and then you have to go into its, I I don't know, bottom deck. I don't know what you call it, but like there's a boss down there, I think, that you have to beat, and then that restores the power. And that was quite cool. I think it's in that area. Maybe it's the next area, but there's a boss that kind of advances towards you, and you have to like knock it back into a pit. That was quite a cool boss.
It's not that area, but yeah, I do know that.
I think it's
the
first
boss.
following one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it comes back, doesn't it? Because you knock it in the lava.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you go over to the left, and then suddenly, like, the skeleton of it comes out. I was like, oh my God, I genuinely panicked because I was like, I only just, like, survived, like, the first fight. And I was like, oh no, there's a second stage, but then it just collapses. Like, that was one of my standout moments.
Yeah, that was good. But yeah, I think, like, the wrecked ship, and because that's a very different area to the rest of the game. So that stood out quite a lot. It's a shame it's just a bit small. There's not a lot in there, and also there was some good hidden areas in the wrecked ship where you had a Chozo statue. So I do know my lore that you could destroy.
Probably pronounced chorizo.
Yeah, chorizo, the chorizo statue that you could destroy and get behind, and that's where I had to Google how the hell do you get this capsule, because you could see it above. And I was like, I just want to know how to get it, and that's where I found out about the shine spark,
the spine shank.
So the spine shank, yeah. So the wrecked ship stood out.
What about the Chozo carrying it as well? That bit's quite cool.
That's in the wrecked ship as well, isn't it?
That's cool.
I
was like, oh my God!
I got that written down.
Yeah, that was good as well.
It was good, as I said. I know we keep going back to Hollow Knight, but like I could see direct. Like I knew Hollow Knight was inspired by Super Metroid, but I could really see like those sort of moments are like quite common in Metroid. Like you go on a bench and you get trapped. There's like a lot of things like that. And I was like, oh, okay, I can see what was the part that inspired them about Super Metroid, not just the whole unlock an ability to get to a new area. It wasn't that inspired them. It's specific environmental storytelling and atmosphere and those sort of like in-game set piece moments. Like I could see the direct line there, which I appreciated. But in terms of like, I don't really have like you actually kind of said like a lot of my favorite moments. But like, rather than a specific area or something, it was more like I had a turning point. So I'll be honest, my first probably maybe 3 hours, I wasn't having any fun. Like I was like, oh no, like I think Ollie likes this game. Ben definitely will. Like I don't like the controls. I like didn't know where to go, and it was like, oh, it's just a random block I had to bomb, but I didn't know it was meant to be that bomb. And I was like, this is bad design. It controls bad. Like it's people's nostalgia because it has a cool atmosphere and music that people liked it. But then as soon as I got like quite close together, I got the X-ray vision and then the grappling hook. And that's when then I was going back to previous areas and scanning and unlocking new things. And suddenly I finally fully understood the controls and all the systems. And then once I got into like just the overall structure of the game, I was like, oh no, this game is excellent. I had like such like a U-turn from like being like, oh, I think this game is bad, but beloved because of what it's inspired, to like, oh no, I'm genuinely just having straight up fun, like forgetting that this is an old game. Like this is just a great time now. And it was really just that moment that I kind of had that big switch around.
Good.
Yeah, nice.
Glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you struggled through, Joe.
Yeah, that happens. On this, honestly, with the podcast, that happens so much. That's like the amount of people that have played Disco Elysium and they've been like, oh, I couldn't get past the first day, and it's like if you had to get past the first day, you would see how good this game is. But like, because we have to finish them, so like we push through when it's difficult.
I would have given up, and I'm so glad I didn't, because you know my thoughts for like of this game at the end of the game compared to 3 hours in, like I've gone from like, oh yeah, it'd be like a 5.5, 6 out of 10 until like, you know, now I'm I won't give it away because we're not got to the list yet, but now much higher than that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's definitely replaying it. And I played Metroid Prime Remastered as well fairly recently. It's put me on like the Metroid like tip. I'm like, I want to like play all of them. You know,
it's got really like
giving me the bug.
You did Dread,
I've
right?
played Dread. I've completed Metroid Dread, yeah. I've got Metroid Fusion as well, which I'm working through at the moment. I'll probably replay Hollow Knight. Ollie called me out and said I was rubbish at it. I completed it. I completed it.
I completed it.
Yeah, not missed. What did you get? 42% or
45%.
45%.
I was on a timer. What a time to be here.
True. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely like yeah, and it's made me think. Okay, what other Metroidvanias are there? Like Guacamelee.
Oh, I love
give
that one.
a go.
That's great.
There's that Benedict Fox one, which is
It's
new.
just come out, hasn't it?
Yeah, on Game Pass.
The Ori games. Don't know if you played either of the.
Yeah, I've
Ori
played
games.
Ori. I really like Ori. Ori's a little bit like, it's definitely light on the Metroid. From what I remember, I don't remember too much backtracking, but you do get abilities and stuff. And that's
it is. The backtracking's there for secrets and stuff, but yeah, it is much less than these games, I think.
So yeah, and I think like Super Metroid holds up really well. Like, we haven't even talked about the combat. Like, we haven't talked about the weapons at all, or the power bombs, super missiles. You know, there's a lot to this game. Like that, even though it's quite simple, it's just held up really. I think it's held up really well. For that simplicity.
The bosses having strengths and weaknesses, the different weapons, they did trip me up quite a few times. I was fighting Ridley or something, and I was like, I used about 80 missiles and all of my super missiles, and then it was like, oh, use charge shots, and it like killed him really quickly, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so the weapons are interesting actually. So you've got, Samus, obviously you've got your map screen, and you've also got a status screen where you can see the powers you've got and everything. Did you actually ever disable any weapons? No, there's no need to. You can. No. You can drop it out. You can actually get a weapon that sort of like is like a bouncing projectile. I can't remember exactly what you have to disable, but there's things in there that people will probably never see because there's no reason to disable anything.
Right.
The only thing I did think was, is it worth ever getting rid of like the ice thing? Because there's some enemies that are weak that you would kill in one shot, whereas you'd now freeze them and then have to shoot them again. So that was the only thing I was like, would it be worth turning that off? But yeah, I don't really ever understand that system fully, I don't think. So I just didn't touch it.
I think another negative is probably the enemies. Like, there wasn't your sort of like cannon fodder type enemies. Like, they just didn't really like. The space pirates were kind of interesting, but the main sort of like bug type enemies and stuff, I was just like,
it's basically bugs and blobs are your main enemies in this game.
And that carries through to the other Metroid. I can't remember Metroid Dread too well, but Metroid Prime is pretty much the same enemy types. You've got little like amoebas like floating around, and it's like, it's not massively fun destroying these. Like, it could add a lot if they like spent a bit of time improving the enemy designs. Can
I say something? I don't want to end on a negative, but can I say something controversial potentially?
Okay, well, you've got to say something positive afterwards, so then you don't end up.
I was hoping you'd come in with the positivity afterwards. I was hoping maybe you had a positive spin on it. I like the environments and the music and the atmosphere, but like the actual like world, I think is quite stupid. Like, it's just almost every single thing in the world, I was like, what is the point of this? Like, the space pirates are like giant grasshoppers. They don't even have hands. Like, how do they fly ships? And their leader is Ridley, and he's like a massive pterodactyl. Like, what does their ship look like? Like, his cockpit must be huge. And then, like, the doors being unlocked with your gun, does that mean that if you're not Samus, you can't use any of the doors? Like, every single thing, I was like, this just doesn't add up. And I get that they're probably doing the legacy of, like, that's how it was back in the day. But assuming that carries through to the new ones as well, and it's like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why does Ridley want a Metroid? Like, isn't it like big pterodactyl? I don't understand. Like, I just don't get it. Like, it just doesn't. It just seems very much like, oh, here's some space tropes. Oh, we'll just stick them all together and just don't think about it any more than that. Which I guess is fine if that's what you want. But
yeah, I agree. Like, it makes it hard to buy into. But again, go back to, when did Metroid 1 come out? 80. Must be like late 80s. It's like, what were video games like then? They weren't The Last of Us, you know?
Oh yeah, I know.
I know. Like spacemen shooting aliens. That's what games were. And it's like, yeah, how important is it that they carry the themes and ideas throughout the series versus sort of completely rebooting it? I mean, yeah, shooting doors, like, that is just a bit odd.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
And every place that Samus goes, she has to shoot doors.
Yeah, and also, like, obviously she loses all of her abilities at the beginning of every single game. Like, obviously they could...
Yeah.
I just don't know how... I just can't buy into it. Like, considering, the story's quite serious, and, it said at the beginning she's got a monologue, and it's like they're trying to do something here, but at the same time it's like, oh, and the captain of the space pirates is a purple pterodactyl. Like, it's like, okay.
It is like, I think... And, well, it's hard not to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, but you look at, like, how much of a leap that game is, especially for Nintendo. The cinematic sort of flourishes, and, like, it's an actual, like, you can see it as a cinematic piece. How much of a jump that game was, and Breath of the Wild, and Breath of the Wild as well, and that came out in 2017. So up until that point, Nintendo games just didn't have that angle, really, that I can think of. And Sony's obviously, like, the all those PlayStation games are like the absolute gold standard of this. So I think it is, we do judge it not harshly, but just in a new light when we look back at these sort of games and go, this is just daft. Like, I just don't get what it's trying to do.
But, it's all these things are taking place in the same game that has that environmental storytelling opening, and, like, it's just crazy jarring. that they're in the same world.
It feels like you're exploring a world that everything's there for you, like, for the player, for the gameplay. Like, it feels like there was there isn't any like the lore doesn't explain itself away logically. It's like, this is like that because that's the way it should be for the gameplay. Whereas, once again, like, obviously it's a very direct comparison because it's what we spoke about last week, Hollow Knight. Like, whereas, like, everything has, like, a purpose, and that enemy is there because that's where that, the Mantis tribe are separate from the other bugs, and that's why they're not infected, and they have this ritual and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like everything is like, it's raining in this city because the lake's above it and stuff, rather than it's like, oh, we needed this, so we put it in. And it's just, it's just a different mindset. Like, the speed in which they would have had to, like, have made this game, and the limited technology and the other games that they had around them for, like, inspiration, like, the fact that it does have the environmental storytelling and it can create this atmosphere, like, it was already going above and beyond 99% of the other games of the era. And like Ben said, it almost feels a little bit harsh looking back now and saying, like, why would this ship be designed like that? What is this environment? Who put all these doors in? Like, how are even these space pirates back there already when we just destroyed them on this same planet, like in the last game? Like, it makes no logical sense. And we can kind of give it a bit of a pass because, it's an old game, but also we're evaluating the game in 2023, and we do have points of comparison now, and we can compare them, and it might seem harsh, but that's kind of what we do. We understand 100%. That's why it was like that, but that isn't like a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, of course. I think as well, like, what was I going to say? It's just, it's right to look back at and look at it objectively, because it is, like Ollie said as well, it's taking notes from Alien, so it is looking at cinema and going, okay, let's kind of try and put this into, like, through a Nintendo filter and make a game out of it. But it wouldn't hurt to have done it more. You could have done that, And there was other, like, like games like another. I think it's called. Is it called Another World? The one that's like a straight up. It could be a film. It's that. So the ideas of films taking, games taking note from cinema wasn't new. It's just that they could have done more, I think.
Well, that leads on perfectly for a question from the audience, which I'm going to point at Joe. It's from Josh Iyer in the Discord, who says, I was reading an interview with the developers originally for the SNES Classic release, and they were discussing how they wanted to make this feel more cinematic. Considering it came out in 1994, how well do you think this holds up today in terms of making it feel like a cinematic experience?
Yeah, so I think certain key moments feel really cinematic. So I guess spoiler warning for the very end of the game. I know it's a very old game, but it's more likely someone might be playing it because of the podcast, so I will give a warning. Like that whole ending sequence where it's like the Metroid kind of grabs you and you think it's going to kill you, but then it doesn't, and then you're having the fight and you're losing, and I genuinely feel like, I'm going to lose. I'm going to have to go back through that stupid laser room, whatever it was, through those things. I was like, oh, and then it came in and saved. But like during gameplay, like anytime it's like a story being told through gameplay or through like not taking control away and cutting camera or whatever, like I'm so happy. And like the fact I got an actual emotional response for this Metroid sacrificing its life for me so I could like destroy it, like I mean that feels much better than saving Peach from Bowser at the end of a Mario game, which is the point of comparison.
That laser beam can kill you, by the way. That killed me. It does 300 damage. You have to make sure you got 3 energy tanks.
It got me first time as well.
I had to run back in again.
You have to have enough life left. Also, we didn't talk about the ending, did we? So the last area, I was a bit like, it feels like the last level of Super Mario 3. Like lava, picture all this skulls. I mean, is that actually... I know, because you do end up on a ship, don't you? Or maybe it's the second to last area where it's just like, come on.
It's
like,
a Nintendo game.
Yeah, it felt like that, you know. But yeah, and also again, you have another escape sequence at the end on a timer. I died first time I did that, so that was good.
Oh, I did it with 20 seconds.
Thing again.
I did 20 seconds at the end. Go on, sorry.
Sorry, go on. I was just going to say, I don't know, earlier I was saying about how it controls so well. It's because of the controls that I died in the escape. Because I just couldn't do the super jump. I was just like, I know I'm going to die. So yeah,
panicking.
There you go.
Rewinding.
Yeah,
You didn't know you could rewind, did you?
Oh,
you the whole thing without rewinding.
Yeah. So on the Switch. So Joe, you probably know this as well. You can rewind the SNES games. I didn't know you could do that. So I knew about save states, so I could save before a boss and just quickly do it again. But no, rewind, didn't know about that. So that made it a little bit harder.
That's crazy. I was really relying on that towards the end. Okay, I got another question here. This is from Taryn K, who wrote in a lot on Twitter, but has now joined us on Discord. This is for you, Ben. They said, do you think this game is a good place to start if you want to get into the Metroid series? I've enjoyed in the past, like Hollow Knight and Celeste, so I wouldn't be completely new to the genre.
100%. Definitely the best place to start. Yeah, because Metroid 1 and 2... Metroid 1 is almost... Super Metroid has a big elements of Metroid 1 in it. So the first area in Metroid 1 is in Super Metroid, where you get the Morph Ball. It's definitely the best place to start. And, it's easy to get... If you've got a Switch, obviously, it's easy to get hold of. It's simple. Especially compared to a game like Hollow Knight and Celeste. Jesus, like Celeste is... Celeste isn't really a Metroidvania, but it's very difficult game. Yeah. This will be a breeze.
There you go.
So yeah, definitely the best place to start.
Speaking of getting the Morph Ball, we did get 2 comments on YouTube. Littlefinger said, I'll be honest, I couldn't figure out how to change into a ball and gave up. That's the end of it. They didn't write anything else. And then Beans over on YouTube did the classic meme, why can't Metroid crawl? Which I don't know if you were a part of that, Joe, because you didn't have a Wii U, did you, when it came out? But you used to be able to post on the Wii U, on the Miiverse. Like, I don't know if you saw any of that stuff.
You talking to me or Ben?
Yeah. I'm talking to you, Joe. I'm talking to you, mate.
Joe's catatonic.
No. I mean,
Joe's gone.
I've seen the ones that surfaced on the internet in general. But
the why can't Metroid crawl was a good one. What else have we got here?
So what's the question?
There was why can't Metroid crawl? Why can't Metroid crawl?
Did she turn into a ball? Yeah, no, it's a good question. Why does she have to turn into a ball?
Good point.
It's cool.
It's
way more cool.
Why can't Metroid cool?
Yeah.
She's got such a cool suit, and the spaceship's awesome, by the way. I think that's why the character's how I don't think she needs to go into her underwear when she dies. And I know the end of the original game, it would reveal it's her, and then she's wearing a red dress or a bikini or something. It's
bikini.
It was cool that you had a
on.
No, I think there's ultimate. No, I swear there's different endings.
When you died, you had a ball gown on.
No, there was if you got a special ending, she takes the suit off and it's she's glamour model.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
it's okay, Nintendo, it's cool you have a female lead back then, but okay.
Yeah. Okay, I've got one more comment. It's quite a long one, but it's good. It's full of good information. So Evan Hariardi said during the 2014 GDC conference, Koji Igarashi a Konami developer most known for his work on the Castlevania series and establishing the design tropes of Metroidvania genre, said a key element to the Metroidvania is to have maps that encourage exploration but maintain clarity at all times while guiding players along a central path. This is accomplished from distinct graphical themes, usually visually unique milestones at key points, status information screens, and fast map movement. In previous podcasts, Ollie has stated being a Resident Evil fan and Joe an immersive sim fan, both genres that have often been compared to Metroidvanias. Knowing this, how do you feel about the style of exploration in Super Metroid and how it compares to other game genres or games you've covered on the bonus points or played personally? Do you want me to go first? Because I've just read it.
Yeah, you can go first.
So basically, I hadn't really thought about it, but Resident Evil 2 Remake kind of is a Metroidvania, isn't it, really? Isn't that...
Kind of. I feel like for Metroidvania, it needs to be you're getting abilities rather than straight up keys. And it's weird when it's like the blurry lines of what these genres are. We kind of spoke about a bit in the past about, is this a Souls-like or not?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, maybe. So
what about Prey?
It has similarities.
Prey, though? Prey kind of is then.
Prey feels closer. Yeah, Prey feels closer.
Maybe if it's in first person, people just don't think of it as a Metroidvania and it becomes an immersive sim or something.
Yeah, it's like that Weird West game, which is an immersive sim, but is like isometric view almost, and people almost didn't consider it an immersive sim because it's not first person. Like, it definitely has elements of Metroidvania. Like, I think it's the freedom to explore and then like gradually unlocking like areas within one bigger zone, but like not in a linear progression is kind of a nice way to sum it up.
I quite like the term closed open world. There's like another way of it being described. Have you got any thoughts on that, Ben? I know I didn't ask you, but
not massively. But what I've got a question though.
Go on.
Is classic Zelda a Metroidvania?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah.
Yeah, like Link to the Past. Like, I think that's a Metroidvania.
Link Between Worlds, especially because you had more freedom of your choices of temple, right? Or temples. Yeah,
it feels less so because you can just rent you
can rent them.
The stuff.
I forgot about that.
So it almost feels like more like, oh, I've gone to an area, I've unlocked an ability, I can go somewhere else, compared to like you almost feel like you're just choosing a key for which temple you want to go to. But I think like Ocarina of Time, like that sort of era, I think that kind of feels like pretty close to Metroidvania.
Yeah. I guess maybe even games that don't have the word Metroid in their genre probably owe quite a lot to this game.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the games I really like have Metroidvania DNA in them. Like, even if they're not that genre specifically. But I think if you look at a lot of my favorite games, they kind of line up with that, giving you that sort of freedom and doing things in your own order, but not too open world where it's like a big map full of icons and I'm doing a checklist.
Yeah. I guess also... one last game to mention, Ghostwire Tokyo, which I know Ben proudly told me he played about 7 minutes of and then deleted. That's also kind of a Metroidvania because that has the like different abilities and that's just come out on Game Pass. That's the reason I'm bringing it up. So you check it out for free if you want to. But yeah, cool game. Anyway, list.
One final thing before list. I'm just curious. Do either of you know what your collection percentage was? Did you make a note of it or remember? Ben, you look like you're nodding.
Yeah, I've got it on my phone. I was also going to just say about speed running, because obviously that's a massive part of this game, and skipping items.
Sequence breaking.
So if sequence breaking, that's it. So yeah, if anyone's interested in if after they've played it, it's definitely worth. There's probably some really good YouTube videos of people just doing crazy stuff in this game. It's probably worth looking into. So, we didn't even talk about the tube, the stupid tube.
What, the glass tube?
Should we leave it? Should we leave that?
Quickly get it off your chest.
The glass tube. So there's a glass. So basically, what's the area, Joe? You mentioned the name of the area earlier when you were talking about it.
It was Meridia.
Sound like an Animal Collective song where you're like, I was lost in Meridia. So basically there's you walk through a glass tube, which you do early on in the game, actually. So you go through that tube quite early. And and then you go back around sort of the top of it, I think. And basically what you have to do to progress is use a power bomb to destroy this glass tube. Just breaks the rules of the game. Just completely, this is not an established sort of rule.
Yeah.
The only thing that points towards it is you can see a broken tube in a different square.
It's the next room. It's the next room.
It's the next room. But it's like, to me, that is just too obtuse. It's too obtuse. It's one of those things. It's like the infamous, I don't know if you talked about it when you talked about Sonic 3, but the drum, the barrel.
We did talk about it,
you got to press something on. Yeah,
so
I got to mention.
Well, how does anyone know that you're supposed to do that? Like, it's not explained anyway.
It's when it's only once. Like, it's like they're both cases where this is a one-off thing that they thought was a cool idea and they put in, but none of the other mechanics suggest it.
Yeah.
I don't think this one is as bad as that. Like, I think the fact that they do have the other broken tube and it's the exact same kind of like artwork and color. Like, when I looked it up, I was like, okay, I guess I could have got there. But the problem is like, you're not like, if it was in a small area and it's like, work out how to get out this area, you would work it out. But the fact at that point, you've got almost the entire map. Like, I didn't even know I was looking to solve a thing in that area because that was an old area. Like, that's where I think the difficulty comes in, is the fact that you have the whole world basically open to you at that point.
And, they could have just put like a little crack in there or something.
Yeah,
Just
or if you shot it, it would shake or like, give you some sort of like... Because I probably shot a rocket at it.
That's the same with the missile doors, though. The fact that it takes 5 missiles to open a missile door, like, you might try 3 and then be like, this isn't working.
Yeah, but they flash. They flash, though. That's the giveaway.
Get feedback,
Yeah,
but I guess, feedbacking but not doing anything 3 times is quite severe, isn't it? 4 times, it still doesn't do anything.
I'd like to know the thinking behind why you need to shoot 5 missiles. Like, what I can't see. Like, what the benefit of that is. But anyway,
the other one like that is quite near the end. There's a bit where you have to shoot the floor, and it makes 2 little holes to drop down to like the final area. And that was like, I had no idea. The floor is literally just like black at that point as well. I don't think there's anything there. That was another one that I looked up and I was like, what? Yeah. Like, you just shoot the floor and it just opens. Like, okay.
So my clear time was 6 hours, and I got 65%. So I think I only really consciously backtracked to get items once, which is probably why I got that only 60 odd percent. But
you beat me by 1. I got 64.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember the clear time. I got 64%.
I also got 64.
Oh.
So
wow,
I guess we're all basically the same. It's kind of nice. We've basically all experienced about the same amount of the game. So I guess I was expecting one of you to say like 90 or so.
Yeah,
or something.
But my clear time was only 8 minutes. So
ultimate speed run. Yeah. I guess like it's again different to Hollow Knight in the sense that, if you get like some idiot gets 42% or whatever of the game. Like you are missing chunks of the game, like massive areas.
Yeah, I was missed out bosses and stuff.
Metroid is like you're just missing missile pickups or energy capsules. It's like whatever, it's fine. We saw everything. So
okay, list time.
Okay, so time to put Super Metroid on the list. It's going to be the 39th entry on the list. Seeing as you're our guest, Ben, if you had free choice and we weren't here and you could put it anywhere on the list, where do you think it would roughly end up?
Well, the order of the list is kind of interesting anyway.
Yeah. That's why I said roughly. There's always like a weird compromise. Like, I mean, no one's ever happy with this list, even us.
I would go with top 15.
Okay.
So
top 15. I mean, if I shuffled around, it would probably end up in the top 10 because I would take things out of the top 15.
So what's it bumping into? Like, what's the highest? Like, so say from 15 up. Like, where is the stop from like an individual game where you're like, I wouldn't put it above
so
that?
I would say, so your top 5, I wouldn't put it above your top 5.
Okay.
So I'd probably put it above Prey
Okay.
But I wouldn't put it above Doom. Let's put it that way.
Oh, like
Do you
me.
know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Every week I go through the same thing. Yeah.
And like Walking Dead would drop out. So I would say probably would be in the top 10, but because of the nature of the list, I would have to say top 15.
Okay, so where Ben's put it for audio listeners, that would be 1 under Hollow Knight, 1 above Prey, so that would be like the new 6. So that area. No, I know it's not exactly how it was in your dream last night, but that's as close as it could be here. So Ollie, this is the one that matters because ultimately it's our decision.
Yeah.
Where would you want it?
I would put it. Not trying to be clever or anything, because sometimes we have little tactics to move games up and down. My immediate thought would probably be between 12 and 13. So it would be the new 12 or the new 13, I guess. It would be the new 13.
Okay, do you want to read out the games around there?
So 11 is Yoshi's Island, 12 is Subterra, the board game. Then it would be Super Metroid, then it would be Ooblets.
Okay. No, I guess it's my turn, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I did the thing where I listened to everyone else's answers before starting to think about my own. So it's such a weird one for me because I look at games like, even if I look like further down the list, games like Hero Blaster, which I think like just controlled so much nicer and like I enjoyed the immediate gameplay, but had like next to zero emotional impact on me. Whereas this game, despite being an old game, like it had an emotional impact on me. I think I will remember this game well. Like, I feel like even though I've only just heard them, I feel like I'd almost already feel nostalgic to some of the sound effects and like some of the music. Like if I played Metroid Dread after this, like if they do little Easter eggs, it would make me happy. Like, but playing the game, like, didn't feel nice. So I think I'd put it, I enjoyed it more. I think I would put it above Skyrim. So Skyrim's 16.
Okay.
I think I'd probably put it in between the Forgotten City and Skyrim. So that's in between 16 and 15. I think Forgotten City, I would put it above Super Metroid.
I don't know. I kind of feel like Super Metroid walked so the Forgotten City could run, because that's kind of a Metroidvania in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, like I feel like I know you often lean more for like the cultural impact. Like I would, for one to exist, I would absolutely want Super Metroid to exist more, because I feel like that is the game that has spawned so many of the games that I like. Like it's kind of created the genre that I really like. And even ones that aren't straight in the genre, games that have been inspired by it. Like I'm so glad it exists, but like, I know I keep mentioning it, but we've played this back to Hollow Knight.
Yeah,
and
true.
like Hollow Knight, I just feel is like, obviously it's such like a more modern game, but it's such an evolution of it. I feel like
massively, so much more complex and more. The fact that you've got currency in shops, like that's like
and like the NPCs, it's got clever dialogue, it's got like all of the lore stuff, like how good like the bosses are and stuff, and obviously like there's such a time period, and Hollow Knight doesn't exist without Super Metroid. But I tend to like to do the list like what are the best games like of now, and like we'll bear in mind the cultural impact a little bit, but that's not the main thing. I think if we were just talking about the game today, I think like I remember things like the wall jump, the fact that you can randomly walk through the wall, like blow up this pipe, but you had no idea that you were meant to do like that stuff, and the fact that I was playing it and I had internet access to a guide and I had rewind and I had save states. I think if I didn't have any of that and I was playing it on an SNES, like this would have been painful and almost impossible to complete within the time period that we had. And I think it's very easy to ignore that stuff and remember the atmosphere and remember the cool exploring and remember the set piece moments and kind of like push to the back all of the other stuff. But all of the other stuff, that's the stuff you're interacting with more than the cool moments. That's there at every moment of the game, and I think that is what's kind of dragged it down to the still high level that I put it on the list.
Could the cultural impact and the legacy move it up one place?
Yeah, because I was on the fence about it going there anyway, so I can give you a freebie one.
There we go. We got it up. I don't want it above Mr. Driller, really, so I'm quite happy with it.
Also, like I'm looking at. I feel like there's an echo weird. I'm looking at Yoshi's Island, and I'm just like, I feel like Super Metroid is better than Yoshi's Island.
Have you played Yoshi's Island?
Yeah.
Have you found how good it controls?
Yeah, it does control good. It is a joy to play Yoshi's Island.
But then, like Super Mario World, come on, like that's the better.
It's not on the
I
list.
know it's not on there, but like,
Yeah, that would be higher.
it'd be high. Okay,
That controls great today. Like that's not the game we're putting on the list.
No,
like,
fair enough.
Super
Yeah,
Metroid
yeah.
is like it's in its day that it would be my favorite game. Like if I played that, like little me, like as a say if I played that when I was like 8 or something, like that would have been incredible to me. But I think it has been so surpassed by its children.
Well, but put it another way though. Imagine we were this age in 1994
Yeah.
Okay.
and playing Super Metroid.
Yeah,
that
my God.
we would be like, how is this a game?
Yeah, but
We'd
mate,
be like,
if I
this is
was-
like insane.
Mate, if
you
I was
know?
this age in 1994 and I was playing Disco Elysium, I'd be like, how is this a game? Because that's what we're comparing it to. We're comparing it to games that are on the list, right? Like we're comparing
You know
it's
what I mean?
within this list.
I know that, but it's like what I'm saying is like when Joe's saying like if I was 8 and played this would be my favorite game or whatever, however old you were. But imagine if you were 20 in 1994 and playing this game, how much more it would resonate with you.
You'd appreciate it.
Like,
Yeah,
God,
like
this
a
is
mature game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The thing that I'd argue against that is like, so Doom came out before this, and it's 7th
True.
on our list, and that's because of like we took into consideration legacy, but it's because of how fun it still is. Like
it's great.
was like the dad of so many games as well, and has passed the test of time. Super Metroid, and I know I might get slaughtered in the comments for this, I think in a lot of areas hasn't. Overall it has, and it is still a fun game. You could absolutely play it today, and still it's a really great time. But there's so many elements that have aged poorly that I do think that is what docks it down. Why it's at 15 and not at 7. I think that's
it's got
fair enough.
15. That's why I wanted it.
If the if the combat was was like really good or good, it would be a lot higher for me. The combat really lets it down. You can't even be like it's not about the combat because the main character's got a gun for an arm, so obviously it is.
Oh yeah,
But
I'm not going to say that.
But it's the combat, it's the map, it's the grapple, it's the wall. Like it's so many of those little moments, and they do add up. And even though as a whole the good moments are like so good, like as a whole it's lifted up, there are too many of those kind of tweaks, and a lot of them aren't technical tweaks. They are design tweaks that could have been done at the time, but obviously that's us with hindsight of what games ended up becoming. They didn't have that in the day.
I'd like to request one more change to the list because I've got Ben here and I know he's going to back me up.
Oh God, all right.
I think BioShock needs to move down to the lowest 5, like 36, 37, like that game. When I look back on it, BioShock 2. Like it is abysmal.
Okay,
BioShock 2
It's at
is
27.
abysmal.
So
I mean,
BioShock
I'm
2 is at
looking at the
27.
games below it, and I'm like, actually, most of their games are probably better than BioShock 2.
Yeah, exactly. BioShock 2 is
okay,
so bad.
Ratchet and Clank definitely is better than BioShock 2.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay,
I
well
know
for
that's
now I'll just
2016, but that's still.
yeah.
He's just moving.
No, I'm not making the official
hang
move.
on a
I'm just
minute.
He's just doing it. He's just doing it.
I'm just not making the official move. I'm just putting it so we can see it.
Looks disgusting.
Sonic 3, that's not that good, is it? I've played that recently, and that's a chore.
The Dig is the game we spoke about before we did
I
this
don't know the
podcast.
Dig. Yeah, I don't
where,
know the Dig.
we were
we
saying
touched on
about-
it, didn't we?
Even our guest who brought it forward was like, "Yeah, it's not great, but it's interesting," and it was. Like, I don't.
Ollie, you let Max Payne 3 go very low, didn't
Joe
you?
said it was Joe.
You
I
love
was
that
like, it's
game.
one of the best action games ever made, and then for an hour, Joe told me why it was rubbish. Basically,
And you agreed.
And why is Beyond Good and Evil so low?
oh mate, oh my god, have you played that recently?
I've never played
It
it.
is
Obviously, I know it's a
Awful.
adored game. Yeah.
It's not, you can't even invert the camera. That was a bit. So Joe plays inverted. So he was like, I couldn't even play it.
Oh dear.
I chose it knowing it was a cult classic and people loved it. Like we didn't want to pick it to bash on it, but that was a tough week when we had to tough
really
couple of weeks
hard,
playing through that.
I didn't even finish it. I was like, I can't do it.
And the whole time I
enough.
was scared Ollie was loving it because I didn't know because most people liked it. I was so glad when I found out you didn't, and we were on the
Well, it's
same
good
track.
to see something different. That's what I like to see. A different list to your usual.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
But the
top 40.
back to BioShock 2, in my mind now, it is level with like
We're
Enslaved.
just dunking on Bioshock 2 now.
Level
with what, sorry?
Enslaved, Odyssey to the West.
Oh god, I think I saw you guys play that like weird. What's that guy's name? The actor?
Yeah, that's the one. You're thinking of the right one. The guy who plays
He
Gollum.
played Gollum.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's this
just
photo
pictures
on
of him just
holiday.
appearing. Like it is on that level. Like
That
Bioshock
looks
2
so
was
bad.
not good.
Yeah. I just think it's a big drop, but I mean, I definitely put Ratchet and Clank above it. Christ.
Okay.
If I give you Ratchet and Clank, Ollie, can we just leave it as there for today? Because I don't think because next it's the dig, right? Like Bioshock 2, even if you didn't personally like it, it's fully functional. Like it worked. Like they did the thing they intended. The shooting works. Like everything works. Okay, and I feel like under the dig and including the dig, there was something core that didn't work in all of the games.
Yeah.
Underneath there.
Okay. All right. Well, that's one down. I got it down one. Next week I'll try another one. I'll try another push down.
Oh, God. Grind me down. Right, so are we all happy with where Super Metroid is? This is everyone's last chance because this is when people come to see the Super Metroid episodes. Even if it does move later on, which it could do, this is what they're gonna see. Is everyone happy?
Yep.
Yep.
Nice
Okay.
one.
Good.
Good. Right,
Joe's
that's done. Let's-
dealing with children. Is everyone
Well,
happy?
Well, I'm thinking of like with everyone here, but then I'm also like I know how the comment section goes whenever we're doing like a beloved game. Like I remember when we did like Undertale, which is like it's 10 now, and I think it was even higher when it was on the list. And like anytime you're doing a game which will be people's favorite games, like there will be people watching this that Super Metroid is their favorite game of all time. Like I'm always trying to make sure we're really articulating why for us it wasn't that, but like why it's, you know, totally valid for it to be that. Like I'm always trying to preemptively reply to those comments before they come up, because I'm not going to bother replying to those when they're once they're there.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think, I mean, with the context you said, and it's at the end of the day, it's your personal views, isn't it? It's not
Absolutely.
You know, it is. I think it's fair.
What did
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, I know we've been running a long time, but did you ever play Undertale, Ben?
Yeah, but I did a not a passive run. I just killed everything, and then it's like, oh yeah, you got to replay it, and I was like, oh, I'm not replaying that.
Oh, exactly the same as me.
So,
exactly the same as what I did. Yeah.
Maybe I'll play it again one day.
So
but
that was where a lot of the controversy came from, is because Ollie got an ending that a lot of people felt wasn't the good ending, and was almost annoyed that was the ending that Ollie got. Like
I only killed one thing.
that-
I only killed one enemy.
I think so I'm 34. I'm 35 this year. When Undertale came out, it was definitely like younger. It was a younger gamer type game. It just never resonated with me, and I've just never been a PC gamer, so I didn't have access to it for, when it was released. I think it came out on PS4 like a fair bit after the PC release, so it was just kind of passed me by, and missed the hype.
Yeah, I mean, you finished it, you completed it.
I did finish it, but I was like, people were like, the music and the humor is so great, and I was just like, okay, didn't really get it, but yeah.
I've successfully made you an enemy of every commenter now.
Yeah,
there we go. I've just set you
I know,
up.
yeah. I didn't think that. I was like, I'm going to get trolled.
Our audience is very nice. Our audience is very
I
nice.
was going to say, the both communities are really, really lovely.
Yes,
but obviously,
community.
it's a community of people that are passionate about games and passionate about particular games. And then, you've seen how petty me and Ollie get at each other's throats when we're talking about our favourite games. We're not above any of that. Anyway, so that's kind of Super Metroid's time. So it's ended up at number 15. So it's above The Forgotten City, just about, and then under Mr. Driller. And I guess this is the end of our run of games about going underground, Ollie, which I think we had about 4 or 5, 6 maybe in a row of games about going underground.
Yeah, we did. Finally, we can see the light of day with our next game, which is going to be Humanity, which that episode comes out on June 2nd. And then after that, we've got the big one. We've got the audience voted game. So speaking of passionate community, I can tell you right now, as I just checked, just before we start recording, currently winning with 58 votes is Stardew Valley. And then underneath it with 57 votes, it's only got one less, is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. And then at 57 again is What Remains of Edith Finch. So if you go and vote for any of those three, you will be affecting the outcome because they're so close together.
Your vote will have an impact. So just to explain, if this is the first you're hearing of this, you're like, wait, what? There's a video on the channel. And it's very obvious what it is with the thumbnail and stuff. It's basically the audience selected vote. If you click on it, the way we're choosing the game is it's whatever comment has the most likes. So it's not how many people comment in the game. It's just we're going to pick whatever comment has the most likes. That's the game we're going to do. So if you want us to do a particular game, at this point, you probably too late to comment it. Look through the games that have a decent amount of comments and add your votes to them. That's how you can affect the outcome if you want to choose what game we do.
Yep, and the vote ends on May 29th. So that's the day that we record the Humanity episode. So we'll announce on that episode which game we're doing next. Anyway, after the audience voted one, we have Tears of the Kingdom, June 30th with a guest. Ooh. I know, very exciting, isn't it? So that should be pretty good. And then after that, we have League of Legends on July 14th, which I don't know if I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. I'm kind of like a bit scared, but it should be good.
I'm curious. I'm curious for that one. It's a game that like I'm the one who suggested it, but I suggested it because I thought it would be interesting. I've never played it, but I just know it's really popular, and I've never played a MOBA, and it's free. And if you've got Game Pass, you get all the characters for free, with your subscription. So I thought that would be a fun one to kind of put me and Ollie out of our comfort zones a little bit.
Yeah. We have a goal for 135 patrons, which is doing the Bloodborne series Blood Brothers. We are fully in planning stage of doing this because we're quite close. We're at 127 patrons as of today, Monday. Weird thing, Patreon is removing goals, but it's our goal anyway, so we're going to honour it and just stick to it. So when we get to 135, I guess Blood Brothers is either going to be coming out or at least being edited. So depending on how quickly we get there. But it should be a really cool series. We've got some really crazy ideas for how to elevate the Let's Play. So that should be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the patrons have been directly funding that. We have been buying kind of equipment and props and stuff. And we're going to be doing it in person. This isn't going to be, it's not going to look like just, another bonus points video on the channel. It will be its own kind of special thing thanks to that. So if you were interested in checking out the Patreon, seeing what the benefits are, but also mostly just supporting us and supporting us being able to do those things, link in the description and you can kind of see through all of that stuff. But apart from that, that's going to be the end of this episode here. Huge thank you to Ben for bringing Super Metroid towards us and being such a lovely guest.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. Also want to say a special thanks to Chris Guy as well, because once again, he's lended us our mobile bonus point studio and set up all of the tech for Ben to go and record there. So if you're watching this, Chris, shout out to you as well.
Yeah. Also, no relation. I know I had multiple brothers earlier on. Chris Guy is not one of them. Just coincidentally, same surname.
It's very confusing. And also, sorry, mate.
I was just going to say, your Bloodborne playthrough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they announced the Blue Point remake today.
No, they didn't. Shut up.
They haven't. They have not.
But we can manifest it. We can manifest it, and maybe it will if we just keep saying it.
Every time we mention,
I just want 60 FPS. That's all. I don't even want. Don't touch it. The game's beautiful. Just give me a solid frame rate,
as soon as you finish your playthrough, it'll be
That's
announced. It'll be
what happened to
Are you a Bloodborne fan then, Ben?
Love it. One of my favourites. Yeah.
I guess you're actually my blood brother, Ben.
Yeah. Yeah. If you need a summon, I think I've still got a save. Just bring me in.
That could actually be quite cool. That could be quite fun.
Well, I mean, we'd have to censor your PSN name, so maybe not. But
that might, because it hovers over the character, doesn't it? Yeah. A moving black bar.
I'll enjoy editing, tracking that roll around the arena. Oh dear. So hopefully that's been a good time. We've got some fun stuff coming up on the bonus points. But as I said, that is the end of that one here. We will see you back in 2 weeks where we'll be discussing Humanity, which is available on a PlayStation exclusive, right? Is it PC? PSN?
PC as well.
PC, PlayStation. Okay. And it looks amazing, by the way. Like, watch a trailer for it, and I think you'll get an idea if it's your kind of game. Ollie and I both hyped about it, and as of today, some reviews started coming out, and they're all like kind of 9s and stuff. So it should be a fun one. So we'll see you for that. But apart from that, thanks for listening or watching, and we'll see you all later. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.